you, Howard, and welcome to Jazz on My Mind, Coast to Coast. I'm Richard Blackwell. This is the show that is dedicated to jazz lovers around the world. Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m., we bring you jazz events from Los Angeles to New York, along with performances and jazz chats with the legends, the current stars, and upcoming jazz stars. And tonight, we have another fantastic jazz show ready for you. This evening, we have a wonderful live performance from sax great Mr. Dave Schiff and his trio. But first, I'd like to introduce you to two wonderful men of jazz. From the Council of Jazz Advocates, the president, let's welcome Mr. Harold Burke and my main man, Mr. Dexter Koonce from the Alfie Moss Dexter Koonce Project. Let's welcome them, Jazz on My Mind. All right, come on down. Slide on down. It's good to see you, gentlemen. Dexter, welcome back. You were here last week. I'm glad you can come back. And Mr. Burke, you are the president of the Council of Jazz Advocates, the Delaware chapter. And we wanted you to come on the show tonight because in about 3 weeks, there's going to be a big event happening here in the city of Delaware. And we're going to call it a tribute to Boise Lowry. And the show is going to be called It's All About Boise. Now, before we get into that, tell me, what is the Council of Jazz Advocates all about? What's going on with the organization?
Well, first of all, can you hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you.
First of all,
hold it up a little bit.
Jazz is America's original art form. It's something that was invented here in America. And our core mission is to keep this music alive here in the Delaware area. We were established back in 1994 by simply a few jazz lovers. And what we try to do is support events here in Wilmington, provide scholarships for young people who are studying jazz and moving and continuing their education in jazz or jazz education, and to provide a venue for people to see what we think is good jazz. And once a year since 1994, on the last week of October, we provide a concert. Last year, we paid a tribute to Clifford Brown's 80th birthday, and we had a sellout crowd.
Great show.
This year, and last year we had musicians from the regional area. This year we're focusing on Boise Lowry, some of his students, and his students who are going to be performing, and other local musicians. We've got a real cadre of musicians. When I heard the number of them, I was amazed at how many folks are going to be showing up. I understand the musicians are happy. They're excited. We're excited. The tickets are selling well. And that's going to be this October, 3 weeks from now, Saturday, October the 29th, at 4101 Washington Street at the Delaware Music School. Right. We're looking for a really great show. And hopefully some of you in the audience will hear about it, contact Richard about it, and come and enjoy the show. We really think it's going to be a great show.
I know it's going to be a great show because, as you mentioned, Harold, last year's show, which I was in attendance, the Clifford Brown show was absolutely out of sight. And for those who may be saying Boise Lowry, I've heard that name before. Boise was the instructor for Clifford Brown and many other musicians.
That's right.
Worldwide.
Right.
Now, Dexter Koonce, welcome back, first of all. You were on the show last week. We kind of alluded to the big show coming up on October 29th. Right. And Boise Lowry was your uncle.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's got to be a wonderful feeling for you to have your uncle pay tribute to a man who's done so much for jazz around the world. That's got to be a big honor for you.
Well, sort of, but I mean, being his nephew just gave me access. Yeah. The only thing is the fact that I had access to him, and I learned a lot from him as a student and a jazz musician. But I learned a lot from other people too. Like, it's funny that we're doing this thing at Wilmington School of Music because I remember how involved we were with that particular place. It used to be called Wilmington School of Music at the time. Mm-hmm. I remember you're about to bring Hal Schiff's son on, Dave.
Yeah.
And I remember I met his father previously to him bringing a bunch of musicians, Herbie Hancock and Donald Byrd, all those people for workshops here. So it's really interesting. I mean, there's a lot of people that put in, and I look at Boise as one of the fathers of music and one of the fathers in the community that helped to father the community in various ways, not just as a musician. So being proud of him, I'm living off of things that those people did for the community.
There you go. And I heard, not like you said, Dexter, he wasn't only a great musician. I understand that he had such a tremendous spirit.
Right.
And on that night, October 29th, as the Council of Jazz Advocates paid tribute to him, it's not going to only be about the music. It's going to be about his spirit.
Absolutely.
Because when I arrived here in 2009, and I mean, God just said, you want jazz? I'm going to take you to some jazz. And he brought me here to Wilmington, Delaware, which I now call the jazz capital of the world. This is a tremendous place.
Absolutely.
If you want jazz, Wilmington's got some jazz. Now, when you talk about Boise Lowry, he instructed so many musicians. You talk about Tony Smith, Gerald Chavis, Faustina Dixon, Larry Unthank. There are so many musicians that he influenced over the years, and that's a wonderful thing now to be able to pay tribute to such a marvelous man. Now, Mr. Burke, when you came up with the idea to pay tribute to Boise, that had to get such a positive response from the community.
Oh, yes, and in fact, most of these folks that you just mentioned are people I met, and I didn't realize that Boise was their instructor. But I'm pleasantly surprised to hear about that. But I like their spirit, and I think there's a real spirit here. And I've been in this. Well, I live in the city, and just recently, not only has my buddy here, Richard, and a lot of other folks have really been putting some good jazz out there. I'm walking around and I'm hearing it and I'm seeing it. And one thing we have to remember is musicians are people,
right?
And they're really good people. Right. So, and they're part of us. We're like a team. We need them and they need us. So don't be intimidated by them. Get to know them because we support each other.
That's right. That's right. And jazz definitely needs to be supported. We know where it is right now, and we know where we want it to go. Absolutely. And in order for it to reach that new pinnacle, we have to pull together and make it happen. Right. Now, Dexter, Boise Lowry, the name, and you know him as your uncle, because that's the part that he played in your life. Right. But so many other people hold him in reverence because of what he did and his spirit. Right. And it's continuing on because, like Harold said, there's a lot of cats that Boise taught who are now instructing people with that same method. Exactly. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, he had a method called classes, which was, in the beginning, it's one step. The classes that everyone knows is the classes of what we call the consonants, like common sounds, like progressions in C. And they sort of had like minor and major turnbacks, and they had one diminish. But it was, it's a system that trains your ear, especially with what was popular in jazz changes at the time, 1-6-2-5s. And any musician would know what I'm talking about, But it was 12 other systems, actually 11 other systems too. And it went on into substitutions and other things like dominance. But the basic system was obviously enough to start a lot of musicians understanding how jazz
Everybody
worked.
was digging it.
Yeah.
Because you look at people like Clifford Brown.
Right.
And then, of course, the great Wilby Fletcher Jr., one of the most outstanding drummers ever. Studying under Boise's tutelage definitely took their career to another level. And some of the musicians that are going to be appearing, we're going to talk about that real quickly on this particular show. We do know there's going to be Larry Unthank, great saxophonist who's been on Jazz on My Mind. Tony Smith, I believe Saeed Mbue, who was on the show, and he's coming on to perform in a couple of weeks. Who are some of the other musicians that you know offhand, Dexter, that are going to be performing?
Well, I don't actually. They didn't get in touch with me to tell me about the musicians that's going to be performing.
Right.
They just told me what I'm supposed to.
So you are going to be one of the musicians that's going to perform.
Yeah, I'm going to be there. Yeah.
And you're going to perform with your group, the Alfie Dexter Koonce Project, which is a tremendous group here. And you guys were on the show last week.
Yeah.
We showed a video clip.
Oh, I love that clip.
From your performance on the waterfront, on the riverfront.
That's such a beautiful clip.
I hope you guys saw it last week. It was an out-of-sight show.
That wasn't the first one, but it just seemed like everything came together
Chemistry.
with that clip.
The chemistry
that
was
the prototype for Jazz on My Mind.
It really was, because it was one of our first videos
Yeah.
that we did here in
Yeah.
Wilmington, Delaware,
Absolutely.
since coming from Los Angeles. Absolutely wonderful. Mr. Burke, once again, the show is going to be Saturday,
October 29th, 7 p.m., the Music School of Delaware, 4101 Washington Street.
Okay, and the tickets are available now, ladies and gentlemen. The tickets are $40.
Right.
It's going to be $40 well spent.
And we are a nonprofit organization, so you can write them off.
Mm-hmm.
And this money does go to scholarships.
And it's a very worthy cause. It's going to help to keep jazz alive. It's also going to go to some other great things that the Council of Jazz Advocates are doing. And if you want to get your tickets, ladies and gentlemen, you can get in touch with the Council of Jazz Advocates.
Or Richard.
Or me. I don't mind. Is there a phone number where they can reach the council, Harold?
I really don't have a good number for them tonight.
Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to call the Blackwell Solution, and I'll give you that number right now. If you want tickets to this tremendous tribute, you can call area code 302, and the number is 428-1964. That's area code 302-428-1964. Don't miss this outstanding night of jazz. And I got to tell you, Harold, my hat goes off to the council, because every year you find some tremendous person to salute and pay tribute to. Last year was Clifford Brown, and this year is the great Boise Lowry. So Ernie Watts, great saxophonist. And I got to mention, ladies and gentlemen, I've asked to be the master of ceremonies for the event. So we all will be on stage together, and it's going to be a worthwhile event. Mark your calendar, October 29th, Saturday. The showtime is at 7 p.m. So if you're in the Delaware area, make sure you come by the Delaware School of Music and check out It's All About Boise. Mr. Burke, thank you so much, and I wish you and the council the best.
Thank
Dexter
you,
Koonce, one of the baddest musicians in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Harold Burke and Dexter Koonce on Jazz on My Mind. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Stay where you are, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up next, we will have a jazz chat with tonight's musical guest. But first, let's see what's in store for the West Coast in This Week in Jazz. Now, let's start off with This Week in Jazz in Los Angeles. There's a wonderful new jazz spot in L.A., and it's called Nola's. There's always some hot jazz happening at Nola's, and it's always with a touch of New Orleans. Nola's is located at 734 East 3rd in Los Angeles. For jazz events, you can call Nola's at area code 213 and the number 680-3003. The number again for Nola's is area code 213-680-3003. And also, ladies and gentlemen, for more exciting jazz performances in Los Angeles, be sure and check out the world-renowned World Stage, located at 4344 Degnan in L.A. They've always got some great jazz performances happening, and that's the home of the late, great Billy Higgins. Once again, that's the World Stage. And for jazz events and information, you can call the World Stage at area code 323-293-2451. Be sure to tell our good friend Matt Gibson we said hello. Once again, it's one of my favorite spots in L.A. It's called the World Stage. Also, the Catalina Bar and Grill always has some great jazz. On Friday, October 21st, and Saturday, October 22nd, it's Jazz with Rosalind Kind. That's at the Catalina Bar and Grill. And on Monday, October 24th, it's the Leah Saglanga Trio. And it all happens once again at the Catalina Bar and Grill. Their address, 6725 Sunset Boulevard in LA. You can reach them by phone by calling 323, and the number is 466-2210. That's the Catalina Bar and Grill. And for all of our jazz viewers in the Midwest, Cleveland, Ohio has an excellent spot for jazz, and it's called Night Town. They're located at 12387 Cedar Road. You can call 216, and the number is 795-0550. Once again, it's Night Town in Cleveland, Ohio. And for all of our viewers in Chicago, you can check out a jam and jazz spot called the Green Mill Cocktail Lounge. There's always some spectacular jazz happening. You can see them at 4802 North Broadway in Chicago, Illinois. For jazz events, just call 773 and the number 878-5552. And in St. Louis, Missouri, on October 20th through Saturday, October 22nd, you can see my jazz friend Jeff Lorber and his fusion. It happens at Jazz at the Bistro. Their address, 3536 Washington Avenue in St. Louis, Missouri. For more jazz information, just log on to their website, jazzatthebistro.com. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, for live jazz events from coast to coast, all you got to do is log on to our website, which is jazzonmymind.com. Keep those pen and paper handy, because coming up pretty soon, we're going to have jazz events for the East Coast. Now, everyone, let's welcome tonight's musical guests. Put your hands together. Let's give them a big round of applause. The Dave Schiff Trio. Let's welcome them to Jazz on My Mind. All right. Good to see you, gentlemen.
Good to see you.
Dave, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be
here. You
here.
were on our first program when we promoted your trio coming on and doing some great jazz for us.
Wonderful.
Do me a favor. Introduce these two gentlemen that you have with you tonight.
Yeah,
Who's going to be performing with you?
All righty. My good friends and great jazz musicians on keyboards, Mr. Joe Holt.
Joe, welcome to Jazz on My Mind. Thank you. You're welcome.
And Mr. Mike McShane
All
on
right,
drums.
Mike, welcome. All right. Now, we're really looking forward to it, because Dave was on the show 2 weeks ago, and we talked about you coming on and performing.
Right.
And we also talked about you as a musician. A few minutes ago, we were talking about Boise Lowry. We know that, and I know, that you had some time with Boise. How was that, spending some time with the great Boise Lowry?
He was a great musician and a wonderful instructor. Had a whole lot of different theories on how to approach music, how to understand music. And like Dexter was saying with the jazz workshops with my father, he was like, my father would explain it one way, and then I'd go and I'd go over to Boise's house, and he'd explain it another way, and he'd say, well, I'm talking about the same thing, but this is a different way of approaching it, And I'd have my horn, and he'd play, and I'd play, and he'd go, okay, now what did you mean by that? And I go, by what? He says, what you just played. I said, well, so he had a way of turning, music more than just notes. It's more of an emotion and a language, and it was just amazing.
That is beautiful. Dave, now I know you are an outstanding musician, world renowned. You play with many, many great, outstanding jazz vocalists. Even some people I've had the pleasure to meet. Mel Torme.
Yes.
Tony Bennett.
It was wonderful. That was great.
You did some things with Ray Charles.
Yes.
And you got Natalie Cole. You're going to be performing with my good friend, Natalie Cole, pretty soon.
Yes, Natalie Cole. I will be there on Saturday at Caesars in Atlantic City. Shows at 9 o'clock. And we're going to have a 15-piece big band with strings and alternate percussion. It's going to be amazing.
That's beautiful. Now, Joe, keyboards. Yes. When did you start playing the keys, Joe?
Well, do you count toy instruments when you're like a year old? That's kind of when it started. And then by the time I was 6 or 7, my parents relented and bought me real ones.
So you've been playing for quite a while.
That's what I do. You have to succumb to it at some point and say, this is it. Accept the calling or succumb to the disease, one or the other.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, Joe, who are some of the musicians that you have had the pleasure of performing with before?
Difficult question for me because most of my performances are solo performances.
Really?
And I came up in really the stride piano tradition.
Yeah.
Introduced when I was in high school the recordings of Teddy Wilson and Fats Waller.
Wow, yeah.
And I have performed a lot with a clarinet player, Joe Mediri, who I went to high school with. The Mediri brothers are kind of a Goodman-esque, more traditional group that do the traditional jazz festival throughout the country.
Okay.
And that kind of set me up to have an approach to playing that it's easy enough to fill up the space, or you learn to get out of the way if somebody's there. You know? And so, I guess the best way to put it is, economically speaking, sometimes you want to have a smaller group, and I could run the left-hand bass and get the lobotomy going, and separate the two hands. But it comes out of that perspective of being introduced to jazz, the stride piano, where that's like the really only fully self-accompanying form.
Yeah, that's where Ray Charles, I believe, started on the stride.
And so I guess a lot of my playing has been in that bubble. I've always been a full-time musician, but most of it solo playing. But in recent years, I've had the privilege of hooking up with these two guys, separate projects.
Yeah.
And so it's what jazz really is when you're playing with other musicians and having that conversation. But, if you're playing solo, the pontification works too.
It's there as well. Mike, you are the drummer. How long have you been doing your thing?
Actually, started on saxophone in 3rd grade. Didn't get past 5th grade on that. My dad said I rock too much. I'm going to put you on drums. So I had a break between the sax and the drums, and in my teen years picked up the drums. Mm-hmm. Living in New York City, started playing with. I come from a whole different background than these guys. I was playing in what was the post-punk New York City movement, the Lower East Side of New York City, in the late 70s through the 80s. Moving to Delaware in the early 90s, started to meet some jazz guys, and thought, that's what I want to do. I'm going to move into jazz.
And so that's working out well.
That's working out well. I started playing full time down here in '95, and been so lucky to meet good guys who've taken me on and made a good thing out of it for me.
So you guys are going to be playing some great jazz for us tonight. Is that right,
Looking forward
Mike?
to it. Yeah.
Now, Dave, give us an idea. What are some of the songs that you're going to be performing tonight?
We've picked a couple tunes, and we're going to start off with a classic jazz tune called Bernie's Tune.
Okay.
And then we're going to do one of my favorites, Ellington in a Sentimental Mood.
Okay.
And then I would love to show off
the other guys.
Joe. Well, the other guy's Joe with his great left hand doing some stride stuff. We do Sweet Lorraine. You don't hear that? Yeah, you don't hear that much too much.
Okay.
So we're going to start mix it up a little bit, you know, and have a good time.
Well, we look forward to your performance. It's going to be coming up real soon, so don't go too far for it, okay, gentlemen?
We're right here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Dave Schiff Trio on Jazz on My Mind. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you got that pen and paper handy. I told you not to set it down because now it's time for This Week in Jazz on the East Coast. And we're going to see what's happening this week in jazz on the East Coast. Let's begin with tomorrow night, Thursday. Each and every Thursday night, it's the Thursday Night Jazz Party at Basil Bar and Grill. That's located here in Wilmington, Delaware at 422 Delaware Avenue in Wilmington, Delaware. The king of jazz. This city is it, man, I'm telling you. Every Thursday night, we've got an outstanding jazz group that makes that jazz party even better. And this Thursday night, the jazz music is going to be supplied by G2, an outstanding young jazz group on the rise. They're going to be performing tomorrow night at Basil. Once again, that address is 422 Delaware Avenue in Wilmington, Delaware. Now, the music begins at 8 o'clock and is hosted by yours truly. So, if you're in the tri-state area, make sure you stop by Basil tomorrow night and check out the jazz party with G2. Also, jazz at its finest Monday through Friday, you can check out the Nomad Jazz Bar, located at 905 North Orange in Wilmington, Delaware. For more information and to find out for the events, just call the Nomad at area code 302, and the number is 655-8800. That's the hottest new jazz spot here in the tri-state area, and it's called Nomad. Also on each and every Sunday, it's the world famous Jazz Brunch at Warm Daddy's, located at 1400 Columbus Avenue in Philadelphia. The food there is always delicious and the music is out of sight. It all happens at Warm Daddy's. For more information, call them at area code 215-462-2000. That's Warm Daddy's in Philadelphia. And if you want to hear some music on the radio, well, you can check out my good friend Fawnay. She's on the radio at the station WPFW, which is 89.3 FM out of Washington, D.C. Fawnay plays the best straight-ahead jazz, and she's on every Monday morning from 2 until 5 a.m. The best thing about it is you can listen to Fawnay anywhere in the world by logging on to WPFW.org. And if you want some jazz on a Monday night, you got to check out the great Tony Williams Monday Night Jazz Jam. And that happens at the La Rose Social Club. The address, 5531 Germantown Avenue in Philadelphia. Showtime is 6 until 11 p.m. And I want to let you know that Atlanta, Georgia has a hot jazz spot, and it's called Cafe 290. Every Sunday, they have a Sunday night all-star jazz jam. For more information, be sure to call Cafe 290, and the number to reach them is area code 404, and the number 256-3942. And of course, we can't forget about the Big Apple. On Friday, October 21st, it's going to be the great George Benson. George Benson is going to be performing at the Town Hall Jazz Club. And they're located at 131 West 3rd in New York City. All you have to do is call them at area code 212 and the number 475-8592. Don't forget, once again, ladies and gentlemen, for the best jazz events from Los Angeles to New York, just check out the website, jazzonmymind.com. And before we get into the music tonight with our musical guest, the Dave Schiff Trio, I want to let you know that every Wednesday night we do our show from the Paradise Palms Restaurant, located at 901 North King, downtown Wilmington. Now, I got to tell you about the Paradise Palms because the food here is exceptional. And you say, why is the food here so good? Well, that's because the chef, Mr. Wendell, prepares every dish with the love of Jamaica. Dishes like jerk chicken. We got some Paradise Palms fans in the house tonight. Dishes like jerk chicken, baked fish, greens, cabbage, red beans and rice, and so much more. So when your taste buds say Caribbean, it's got to be the Paradise Palms. For more information, just log on to their website, paradisepalms.com, or you can call them at area code 302 and the number 377-2528. All right. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to put your hands together and let's welcome on keyboard, Joe Hop, on drums, Mike McShane, and on saxophone, Mr. Dave Schiff. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the Dave Schiff Trio to Jazz on My Mind. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dave Schiff Trio. Come on up, Mike. Come on up, Joe. Great. Let's give them another big round of applause. Sounding great. Excellent. Come on in. Come on down, Mike. You guys come on in together. I'm telling you, woo! I've heard your recordings, but to see you live, that's incredible. Joe, great job. Mike, excellent.
My pleasure.
Man, how long have you guys been working together? How long has it been now?
I met Joe about 10 years ago, I guess.
Dave a little longer than that.
Yeah. I met Dave about 5 years ago.
Yeah, so on average 5-6 years. Something like that.
Are you guys playing as a trio anywhere in the tri-state area? You guys performing anywhere together?
We'll be Bessemes.
Downtown Lewis, Bessemer Restaurant, Market and Second.
20, October 29th.
October 29th.
October 29th.
And then the Nomad date that you have?
Nomads, we're going to be up here at Nomads December 23rd.
Wow, that's going to be smoking.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, I talked about the Nomad at 905 North Orange here in Wilmington, Delaware. Golly, you guys are absolutely marvelous.
Having fun with it.
Yeah, let's give a big round of applause. Stand right here with me, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure to join us next week as we will have two very special jazz video performances. We're going to have a video clip from the group called To the Max, featuring their outstanding vocalist, Vanessa. Also another great performance from Anaya, wonderful video clip. Anaya is a hot young jazz group. In fact, they're about to drop their second CD called Full Circle on November 19th. And they're going to release it right here in Wilmington, Delaware, the jazz capital of the world.
Yeah.
Also with us next week, we're going to have saxophonist Larry Williams. Larry's working on the big tribute to Boise, which is happening again October 29th here in Wilmington, Delaware. And along with Larry Williams, we're going to have jazz advocates, Mr. and Mrs. Fleming. You can't miss next week's show. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, for more jazz entertainment, be sure to log on to our website, which is jazzonmymind.com. Log on to become a member as we do our part in keeping jazz alive. I'd like to thank the crew tonight. I'd like to thank Shellyn. I'd like to thank also Ashley, Bernard, and also Vincent. Come on in here, Mr. Burke. And also, ladies and gentlemen, all right, now stand on this side. Yeah, stand on this side.
You get points.
He gets points. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Mr. Harold Burke, of the president of the Council of Jazz Advocates, the Wilmington, Delaware chapter. Also, Dave Schiff, my man Joe, and my man Mike. Thank you, gentlemen.
Our pleasure.
So much.
All
Thank
right.
you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Richard Blackwell, and we want to thank you for watching Jazz on My Mind. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Hey, pleasure. You guys are outstanding.
ba-ba-dee, ba-doom, ba-wee-wah, ba-doom, do-you-wah.